Hello and welcome to the In Publishing podcast. My name is James Evelegh and I'm the editor of In Publishing. My guest this time is Mike Sewell, Managing Director at CPL, a customer publishing agency which celebrates its 25th birthday this year. Mike has worked at the company since 2008 and has just completed a 4-year management buyout. Mike tells us about what has and hasn't changed over the last 25 years.
I guess the specific skill sets have evolved and changed, but that principle of telling great stories and really focusing on the story first has stayed the same.
About how it's not enough just to create good content.
We all love making good stuff, but it's really important to get it out there. So make sure you're investing. If you're a membership organization, are you investing sufficient time, budget, resource into actually promoting that content to make sure that people engage with it?
And how he sees a future balance between home and office working.
Like a lot of organizations, we sort of probably see the office for that kind of heads up and heads together opportunities when people can collaborate and can share information. And then the heads down side, when you just want to get on and get something written or get on and do a bit of coding, will probably be better done from home. So it's just working out how we do that.
Amongst many other things. But first, a quick word about our valued sponsors. We would like to thank our podcast sponsor, Advantage CS, a leading global provider of subscription and membership management software. Capabilities include marketing, sales, payments, and customer relationship software for publishers, membership associations, and information providers. For more information, go to advantagecs.com. Mike Sewell is Managing Director at CPL, a customer publishing agency based in Cambridge, creating print and digital content for membership and professional bodies, commercial organisations, brands, governments and charities. They have 20 regular clients, including the National Autistic Society, the Camping and Caravan Club, and the Market Research Society. Mike, welcome to the In Publishing podcast.
Thanks, James.
Now, I understand that CPL is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, so many congratulations. How is what you do today different to when the company first started?
I guess there's some things which have absolutely stayed the same, which is kind of our focus on storytelling and storytelling by trained, experienced journalists. The two people who founded the company came from a background. One was editorial, one was production and design. So that focus on words and pictures is still absolutely fundamental to everything we do. We have a real commitment to editorial excellence. Please say we still employ sub-editors and proofreaders to make sure that we're really maximising the kind of content that we create and really maximising the messages that we create. And also in terms of things that are the same, print is still a big part of what we do. Obviously 25 years ago, it was pretty much all that we did. That's not the case now by any means, but it still plays a key role in that kind of content mix. And also the majority of the work that we do is via retained contracts, which generate recurring revenues. And I think that's been a business model that's served the business pretty well over the 25 years. But also, of course, a lot has moved on. We call ourselves a content marketing agency now, whereas back in those days, we were definitely a contract publisher. The firm, as I said, was originally set up by 2 people. We now have more than 50 people on our books now, plus a whole range of freelancers who support us as well. I guess.
In terms of the skill sets of the people you employ, presumably that's changed slightly. I'm thinking with obviously the onset of the digital side of things.
Yeah, and I think we're still very focused on employing people who are primarily journalists and communicators, and that we make that a real priority. But the sort of skill sets have moved on. We still have a lot of people who are who've focused on written journalism, but we also employ professional videographers, animators, digital marketers, and as well as when we first started, we didn't offer advertising sales as a service. We also have a lot of media sales experts as well. So I guess the specific skill sets have evolved and changed, but that principle of telling great stories and really focusing on the story first has stayed the same.
And in terms of if you look back over those 25 years, are there any particular learnings which leap out? Any things which particularly stand out as things which are particularly important?
Yeah, I think it is really important to be very clear about what your business purpose is, and to spend some time getting that right. We did that a few years ago, where we said, actually, let's stop and think about what our purpose is, and we said our purpose was that we help people belong. And by those people, we meant all the audiences who read or watch or engage with our content, the clients who we work with to make them feel part of that CPL family, and our employees. So it was that focus on really helping people belong, and also a real clarity that whatever the content we're creating, at the end of the day, and however kind of technical it might be, or sometimes in quite sort of specific niches, it's still very much aimed at people who want to read and watch and listen to stuff that they're going to want to engage with. I mean, other key learnings, obviously, would be make sure you understand your audiences, be very clear about those, and for us as well, I think it's just really important. The first thing to do is to clarify what your message is and what you're wanting to communicate. And certainly that's our sort of message to our clients, and then worry about the channels after that. Quite often it's someone might say, we want to do a video, or we want to do a magazine, but they haven't actually stopped to think about what message they're trying to communicate.
Is that quite a common scenario, that a company will come to you with a rough desire to produce content, but maybe not having thought through exactly what they want to achieve with it?
It can happen, yeah. I mean, certainly not in every case, but I think there's always more time is needed than you might expect to say, hang on, let's just stop and work out why you're doing this, creating this piece of content now, whatever it's going to be, whether it's a one-off or whether it's something that might continue for many years. Just make sure you're very clear about what the purpose of it is. So, I think that's something that we see quite a lot, and it's sometimes, by nature, everybody wants to press on and get on and get something delivered, but it's really important to stop and just stop and ask yourself some key questions at the start.
And you say the mission, which you came up with a few years ago, is to help people belong. Was that right?
That's right, yeah.
And has that, coming up with that statement, has that helped provide a focus for your teams? Do they all kind of work towards that? Is that a defining aspect of their work?
Yeah, I think they really have bought into it. I think we've got quite a lot of people who've from a journalistic background, and if I'm honest, a few of them were perhaps a bit cynical about things like vision statements and mission statements and business purposes. But actually, I think everyone really has bought into the principle of that. And that principle, we work with a lot of the customers we work with tend to be, as you said, professional bodies, membership organizations, charities. So a lot of the content we are creating is about bringing people closer to the organization that we're creating the content for. So we can help them do that and really help them feel belong to the organization through the content that we're creating on their behalf.
Okay. Now, I understand that you've just completed, or in the process of completing, a management buyout, which sounds very exciting. Can you talk us through the thinking behind that and your plans for the future?
Yeah, so the agency was founded 25 years ago by, as I said, by two journalists, and I joined, probably 10, 11, 12 years after that. So I've been here for sort of half that time, and I came in and joined the board, and I think we did a lot of good work, grew quite steadily. But by about 2016, we were kind of a sort of a three-pronged management team, a three-legged stool, and perhaps it had become a bit wobbly, and we needed a bit of clarity on the leadership of the company, and we were very conscious that we wanted to bring through and have an opportunity to reward the good people in our senior team who were coming through and really making a difference. And actually, the management buyout was a model that suited everybody because it allowed for kind of continuity and actually, created very little disruption from the perspective of either clients or our employees. So, yeah, I think it was a really good opportunity to sort of bring through the next generation and perhaps to clarify that leadership piece, and it made sense for the other two guys as well. So it's been a good story. And what's great for us now is that over the past 4 years, the focus has been on the profits we've been making, has been to pay off that debt. But now we're in a position we haven't got so much debt, so we're in a position to potentially do some other interesting things.
Anything in particular, or is that all under wraps?
We're certainly looking around, looking for opportunities. Our focus for that now is on organic growth and growing using the team we've got, because we've got such a strong team that we feel there's real opportunities to continue to grow this business. But if there was the right opportunity, we wouldn't rule out something like an acquisition or a merger if that was appropriate. But right now, we're really focused on kind of actually taking a bit of time to look at our business and spend a bit of time saying, okay, with the 4-year plan for the last 4 years has been to complete this MBO, to complete the management buyout. What's going to be our priority for the next 4 years, and where's our focus going to be? So we want to take some time to actually make sure we really nail that, because we feel there's a lot of opportunities potentially for this business. We want to make sure we take the right ones. And certainly in terms of our financial numbers, we're currently regularly achieving sales of 6 to 7 million with kind of 10% profit margins. It would be great to grow that in the next few years. But then also at the same time, we want to make sure that we continue to keep on enjoying it and keep on being stretched, both as individuals from my point of view, but also from the whole of the team. It's a real balance between that kind of desire to be a lifestyle business and to sort of be all out for growth. And I think we've generally done the balance quite well over the last 25 years. We want to make sure we carry on doing that.
Sounds very exciting. Now, if you look at the customer publishing market as a whole, be it membership organisations, charities, brands, what are the main trends you are seeing in terms of the volume and the type of content they want to produce for their members?
I think it was really interesting seeing what happened with COVID last year. Was that what we saw was that during when the first COVID happened and the first lockdown, was that actually we saw our clients wanting to communicate, if anything, more with their audiences than ever. And I think that was absolutely the right decision. And I think that's been the case across a lot of the customer publishing industry in an uncertain world, and never has the world been perhaps more uncertain than it was during the first few months of 2020. People are hungry for information and content, especially when they're part of kind of membership organizations, and they actually really lent on those organizations perhaps more than they had done in the past. So that's a trend where we saw, if anything, more content happening. I think what we saw the most effective organizations where they mixed kind of the existing trusted channels, such as magazines, newsletters, but also and tried some new ones. And then some of them have really taken off, as we've seen in the last year, including podcasts, obviously, animations, which we're increasingly creating for our clients, more webinars used much more effectively, I think, than they have been in the past. What we've seen from our clients is they're really looking to build, those communities really with their members, and I think there's been some really interesting initiatives over the last 12 months, and some of the trends that were there before have just sped up in that time.
And do you find that you've been producing more podcasts? Because as you say, podcasts are one of the things that have grown seemingly exponentially across the industry. Have you been yourselves producing a lot more? Yeah,
we've done more podcasts, and it's interesting. We're, again, if you talk about a change from 25 years ago to now, 25 years ago when we were asking, as you well know yourself, when we were asking our editors what their main role was, it was to deliver a printed magazine every month. Now we're asking our editors to deliver across a broader range of channels. So our editors will host and record podcasts, and also deliver webinars, host webinars, speak at events. It's a much broader role in a way. So we're certainly seeing opportunities there. And again, I think it's a really interesting channel, and there's certainly opportunity to continue growing it. As with all digital content, of course, you've got to make sure you spend as much time as much time as you spend on creating it, you've got to make sure you're promoting it as well. And that's still something that I think lots of publishers and membership organisations, like the ones we work with, are grappling with.
And has your print output stayed about the same during COVID? Because obviously demand in general for content might have gone up from your members. Is that the same with print? Did they maintain their print frequencies and levels?
I think, to be honest, back in March 2020, I was, I think, like everyone, I was very concerned about what might happen. And one of my perhaps assumptions was that that our clients would want to reduce the amount of print they were doing. That has happened in some cases, sometimes been for practical reasons, such as the publications were sent to people's offices and people weren't there anymore, but most of them have adapted and have started sending it to people's homes, as you know. There have been a few examples where clients have looked at the frequency of print and are doing that, and I think COVID has probably accelerated that. And we talk to all of our clients about the balance between print and other channels, and not many of them want to get rid of print altogether, but it's about how you get the right balance between the complementary digital and print channels. So it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out in the next few months and years. I mean, our experience is that print has a really important role to play, but obviously working alongside other channels and other forms of distribution, basically.
And where typically do membership organisations, I suppose your clients and prospective clients, where do they struggle with their content performance? What are the challenges they face and the areas where they sometimes need extra help?
Obviously it can be. they do sometimes struggle. I think that the basic point comes back to that first principles about you need to align your content strategy and your planning with the broader marketing goals and communication goals of your organization. And I think quite often we find that's where our clients might struggle. And of course, when you're doing that, you've got to make sure you get buy-in from your senior team. Sometimes I think some organizations have been creating magazines or other content for a long time, and the danger is they kind of lose track of what the purpose of it is. So I think they need to be very clear about that. I think the other way that they often struggle is they just underestimate the challenge of creating consistently strong content. Sometimes they might create one piece of content that's quite good, but maintaining that momentum is really, really key. And we'd be bound to say it, but I think that by you can really do that well by employing experts and by using the basic journalistic and techniques that we use and that our teams use day in, day out, like effective, not just the content that you create, but for example on a magazine, not just the written content, but also the headlines, stand first, crossheads, captions, pull quotes. So they absolutely working to the maximum and really doing a job in reinforcing the key messages. And I think some of our clients, particularly when they try to do some of this stuff themselves, struggle there. And sometimes that, I still see, I think sometimes an excessive focus on how stuff looks while losing track of what the messages are. I think that can be a challenge. They lose, and I think CPL has always been quite good about thinking about that balance between the visual look and actually the content. And I think again, what I sometimes see, I mean, obviously our clients do a great job, but sometimes they need to stay focused on the needs of all their audiences. You can, sometimes it could be a few loud voices, perhaps internal voices that can hold sway excessively in some situations.
Okay. Now, from the perspective of a membership organisation, what would you say are the key components of a well-rounded and comprehensive content marketing strategy?
I think we're, there's this sort of the old hero hub hygiene model still stands up pretty well. The hero stuff, when you really want to go big, got a really strong message, really maximize how you get that out there. The hub content, and I guess that's perhaps what I was talking about earlier, the regular stuff that you're doing day in, day out, week in, week out, making sure that's the right quality, making sure it's engaging, making sure it's well put together, and is really does a job, is really important. And then the hygiene stuff, which especially with kind of, I think, some customer publishing organizations, membership organizations, where it's perhaps a real specialism that the readers are interested in. It's making sure you're still creating that in-depth, perhaps more technical material that people will really want to search for. So I think that's really important to start off with the hero hub hygiene. Then, it's going through the basics, and a few things I would say around that. Are you absolutely key about who your key audiences are, what your communications priorities are? Make sure you've got that nailed at the start. And then there's a few, key words I would use, plan, Have you got an annual content roadmap that everyone's buying into, including understanding those messaging channels? Decide. A big question a lot of our clients is your content purely going to be a benefit for your members, for your kind of established audience who may already be paying subscriptions to be part of your organization, or do you want to make it more of an acquisition tool to raise your profile and beyond that? So that's really important. Curate, I think, make sure if you've got a good story, you're telling it effectively across different channels. And certainly we see opportunities in the way that you're talking about podcasts, and what we're asking our editors to do to reinforce stories across different channels is really important. And then I think a point I made earlier, absolutely promoting the material that you have create. We all love making good stuff, but it's really important to get it out there. So make sure you're investing. If you're a membership organization, are you investing sufficient time, budget, resource into actually promoting that content to make sure that people engage with it?
And typically, how do membership organizations promote their content?
Well, I think one of the big the points, as I say, is some of our clients will keep their content in their own members area, and then others make it more widely available, and quite a lot have a mix and a bit of a hybrid of both. In terms of a lot of the membership organizations will still have a printed magazine, for example, so that's quite easy for them to get out there, and it's a great reminder to their members of the fact that why they're paying their subs, and it's something they receive every month or every couple of months, which is a real reminder of that. In terms of the digital content, it's really interesting to see. I mean, they obviously use different channels well. I think perhaps a few years ago, if someone had told me that email and e-coms would still be such an effective channel for getting content out there, I would have questioned that, but they still use that, and it's still really effective, I see, particularly for commercially led content. And then, a lot of them are using social media and using other channels. But I think, as with all of us, we could all do more, to be honest, to really make sure that what we're actually creating, then we go and talk about and shout about, so that people can access it.
I mean, talking about priorities and goals, it's probably hard to generalize, but if you look at membership organizations as a whole, what are the typical goals they might have when they come to you? What are they trying to achieve?
I think they'd be talking to a kind of content marketing agency like us. I guess their key priorities are to retain the members they have, and how can they use a content strategy to do that. That's really important. They want to maintain those numbers, and perhaps use content to be a reminder for those members who might be wavering about whether they want to continue to be members, that it's worth continuing to be a member. They will also come to us to help them with their acquisition of members, to create really good content that they can use to get out there and to encourage people to join their organization. So those are the two sort of priorities. But I think increasingly they're seeing as well that the content we create is very good and can be used beyond just those audiences. Actually, it's a really good, for example, a beautifully put together printed magazine is a great thing to show if you're going to lobby a government minister or something, and to remind them of everything that your organization does. Is actually a really good marketing tool. So I think they can see how different channels can work really well for their marketing. And I think certainly in terms of social media, we all know that social media is okay, but if you haven't got some good content to promote or to use with it, it can stop doing a job in terms of raising the profile of your organization. So I think that a lot of our clients are finding that they're no longer just using, for example, in the sort of publishing world, just the content that we've written in their magazine, but they're using it beyond that. So I think that's a real opportunity for them.
Well, in fact, that leads me on to the next question in terms of your clients and prospective clients and membership organizations. Where do you see the main content marketing opportunities for them going forward? Things that they could do more of, or new technologies, or new platforms, or the like?
I think there's definitely opportunities everywhere. I still think that in terms of whichever platform they're on, whichever channel they're on, they need to stop and think about what their message is and make sure they're really clear about that. And also understand what they're using content for. And certainly the majority of the type of content that we create doesn't lead straight to a sale, but it does play a crucial role higher up that sort of purchase funnel, building awareness and interest, creating demands for our clients' products and services. So I think it's very important that they're very clear about what they're using content for. I guess it's, again, and as I said before, about making very clear about which channel they're going to use, how they can make sure they've got a decent story, because you can do a fantastic video or can look great, but if the story being told doesn't do the job, then it won't have the impact that they're looking for. So, I mean, we're certainly seeing that our clients obviously are going for multi-channel strategies, and they're looking to use a variety of channels, website, podcast, videos, animation, social media, along with print channels, but they've got to make sure they keep their story really clear and really strong.
And in terms of COVID, we've touched on that already briefly. You say that demand for your services has actually gone up as a result of COVID. Has it impacted the nature of what they want in any other ways?
Yeah, no, I don't. It wasn't a perfect story. We certainly had a kind of a sales dip in the first few months last year. We had some clients in the hospitality, sporting, retail sectors where there was some they wanted to cut back in some of the areas some of the work that we were doing for them, perhaps not necessarily so much for the in the membership publishing area, but in other areas of our business. And the advertising sales, we have an 8 strong, bigger than that, media sales team here, and we saw a significant dip in some of those sectors in the first few months. I'm pleased to say that a lot of that has come back. We're certainly in much better shape now than we were 12 months ago. But I guess, I think it's been really interesting. I think I think COVID, as in every single industry, every single sector, has forced organizations to just start again and look at everything they're doing. So I think it's been an interesting exercise for the clients that we work with of actually sort of stopping and saying, hang on, let's just ask ourselves a few questions, go back to the first principles, which I think is a really, really healthy and really important process to go through. And as I say, we are actually finding that, it's so important to keep communicating this time. So we see that as a real opportunity for us. We've also, as an agency, we've benefited from, I guess, through COVID, some of the outputs of that. We did a lot of work during between April and June in 2020 with a firm doing some content marketing for a firm that promotes remote working. So they were looking for some output around that to promote there. They saw that as a real opportunity that came faster than they were expecting. So that was good for us. And then also we've worked with local authorities in particularly in Cambridgeshire for a number of years, and we've worked with them on a number of public health campaigns. So one campaign called Stand Firm, which was a video campaign encouraging people to stick with the rules and stick with the guidance and stay inside, basically. And we're now working on a project to encourage people to take the vaccine. So that's been really interesting work, and I guess we've benefited, in an area for us, public health, which we hadn't necessarily been working in before, where I feel we're developing a bit of some expertise, which could be really interesting for the future.
And in terms of the delivery of your services, presumably like, all other publishers, all your staff were dispersed to their homes. What were the particular challenges you faced, delivering the services and the content for your clients with everyone no longer in the office?
Yeah, that word pivot was definitely being used a lot last March
Yes.
2020. I think I'm really proud of how everybody did in that period, and we certainly did move home, and basically the vast majority of people have been working at home ever since. And I think if you speak to any of our clients, they'll say it didn't really lead to any disruption in their service at all. So we did a really, really good job in that period. Obviously, as with everybody, it's really interesting to assess what it will mean for us as a business. We're kind of we're really looking at that at the moment, like everybody else. We've actually just signed a new long-term lease in our office, so from my point of view, I'm quite keen that people will come back into the office. And our thinking is, as with most people, that we'll be a hybrid and it will be a balance. I think we've found that in terms of efficiency and in terms of productivity, it's had very little impact at all. If anything, I think probably people feel they're more efficient and more productive. And certainly they've sort of got some time back in their day when they're not traveling into the office. But we're really aware that that there's real opportunities that we may be missing out on in terms of collaboration and some of that, taking our work from good to great, I guess, in terms of real excellence and real creativity that we're missing because we haven't got people all together in one place.
So is that how you see the role of the office? Because it sounds like some kind of hybrid approach is going to be commonly adopted. Where do you see the value of the office being?
Yeah, I think it's really, really important. We think and talk at CPL quite a lot about our kind of company culture, and it's amazing how much of that comes from the place, or how much of it came from the place. I guess I should say, bearing in mind that the last year when hardly anybody's been coming to the office very regularly, but we certainly want to have a situation where people are seeing each other face to face. I think it's been really interesting. We've all used different tools. Sort of digital team working technology has been really, really good. The risk is that you kind of I think people have been communicating very well with their own teams, but you do get into a silo mentality, and the kind of sharing of knowledge and sharing of expertise can miss out. So I definitely see us working, getting that balance right. I think, like a lot of organizations, we sort of probably see the office for that kind of heads up and heads together opportunities when people can collaborate and can share information, and then the heads down side, when you just want to get on and get something written or get on and do a bit of coding, will probably be better done from home. So it's just working out how we do that. But culturally, it's been a real change. I think perhaps we had a few people here who believed that if someone wasn't in the office right next door to them, they couldn't be working, and that's that might have been the case 2 or 3 years ago. That might have been a belief, but that belief has completely been dispelled now. So I think that's actually really, really healthy.
Well, I think it's going to lead to hopefully a healthier work-life balance for many people.
Yeah, and that's certainly. I mean, we've as lots of organisations are doing, we're really closely kind of looking to monitor our kind of emotional and mental health of our employees. We've been regularly sort of surveying and getting feedback, and I think a lot of people have said they appreciate the fact that they're not spending half an hour, 45 minutes getting into work at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, or for some of them it's longer. So I hope that can happen, but obviously we've got to be very careful about the risks of people never getting away from their laptops, never getting away from work. And we do have, for some people they have really nice working environments at home, but for others it's harder. They might be working in smaller bedrooms or whatever it is, so it's quite a challenge. So, but I hope that we can get that work-life balance right, and we're certainly really focused on thinking about that. One of the interesting things is that we worked out the other day that 10% of our employees have started at CPL during COVID. So that's sort of a reminder in terms of that this is affecting a lot of people. And I think it's really hard to start a job at the moment, but they're actually very positive about the company culture. But we do have to work very hard to make sure that.
I was about to say, I mean, how do you go through the onboarding process with somebody remotely? I mean, obviously a lot of companies have had to do that. What did you find has worked and maybe not worked?
I think it's actually something, the whole onboarding process is something we've really stepped up generally in the last 2 or 3 years. And then in the COVID period, we've sort of focused on it even more. We actually did a session the other day where we kind of sat down remotely, sadly, with all the people who have started in the last year to get their feedback on how that had gone and how the onboarding process went. And they were generally very positive. We're pretty, as we should be, we're pretty big on communications here. We have weekly all company meetings, and we really encourage team meetings and one-to-ones, and that process should be happening. So it's important. It's not just what you get on your first day, but it's how that's sort of reinforced over the next few weeks and months. But it's definitely something to think about, and I'm very conscious of it. My son has started in a role in the past year for the first time he's ever had an office job, first a full-time job basically, and it's not easy when you're doing that from your bedroom at home. Just those small things like how the email works or some really basic things can become much more challenging. So I think it's you have to just work really, really hard to support people. It's very,
That's
very
right.
important.
And I suppose all those normal things, going out for a drink after work in the early days, those are obviously not possible at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's something that I'm really encouraging now that we're allowed to at least we get into pub gardens, and at the moment, the time of recording, I'm encouraging our teams to really make an effort to take opportunities to see each other face to face and to make that happen. But yeah, it's just all the smaller stuff and the kind of, we have got water coolers here, the water cooler conversations and the conversations in the kitchen that you don't get when you're starting from home. And I guess it's seeing my son in that situation has sort of raised that for me. But I think
to be revived soon, hopefully.
Well, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Now, one thing membership organisations, in fact, publishers in general, agonise over is how much content to make freely available, and how much to put behind a paywall. Where do you typically draw the line, and what are the considerations?
We actually produced a report specifically looking at this a few years ago called the Content Conundrum, and sort of getting views of different membership organisations, which do take different approaches. Personally, I've always argued strongly that membership organisations should see their content as an asset that they should make widely available. But obviously not all of our clients agree with me. For many of them, their magazine is their number one member benefit, and that is absolutely still the case. So there's perhaps a justified fear that if they make it available to non-members, it will lead to a reduction in their membership numbers. So people just think, well, if the magazine's it's no longer a benefit. But actually, well, I can see why they have that concern, but it certainly hasn't been borne out by reality with the organisations we work with. I think you can also, the great thing is, I think this is an opportunity where you can differentiate between print and digital content. So, for example, what we say to our clients is, look, make the print version something special that goes to members only. Think about how it's presented. Really think about the kind of the look and feel of it, the form of it, the high quality of it, and make it feel like it's something special that will go to members only, and it feels like a real benefit. But then the digital versions of that content, share it as widely as you can, because from my point of view, especially if they've outsourced the creation of it to an agency like ours, and you're investing in getting professional journalists to write and design this great content, in many ways it seems a shame to then hide it behind a paywall. So I think it is an ongoing debate, but I think increasingly organizations are seeing that actually some of the sort of traditional membership magazine content they're creating, or customer magazine content they're creating, is as good as anything else they create, and they can use it to get out there and present themselves to a wider audience, and present as an engaging, authoritative content that can be used really widely. So I think that's certainly where we encourage our clients to go.
I mean, do some of your clients, have a paywall and allow, let's say, 5 articles per month, or is that not really?
No, that is a model they use, and lots of them use that very effectively. And some of them say that we'll make the current magazine, but not available to everybody, but not the previous ones. Others do it the other way around, make the previous ones available, but not the current ones. So I think there's definitely, it's probably not it doesn't have to be an all or nothing scenario, but my view is that obviously you've got this content, you've got social media channels by which you can promote it, then get out there and do it. So I think that's a big way to go.
And in terms of data, we're all using data more increasingly in our operations. Some companies struggle with it more than others. I think some companies are probably awash with it, but don't know quite where to start. Are there any what are the hurdles your customers face in making better use of data?
Yeah, we did the second report after the Content Conundrum. We did another one called the Content Connection, which looked, among some things, looked at how customers are using data. A lot of them acknowledged they weren't using it very well, that it was rarely shared in their organization, and fewer than half said they had access to the data they wanted when they needed it. It felt to us that they weren't using data effectively to kind of identify the members who would respond to specific types of content, and also to think about, how can we focus on members, for example, who might be looking like they might be likely to leave the organization. If we've got that information, how can we, get them content that's really going to encourage them to stay? But it's not all bad news. I think one of the things about the whole GDPR was that it's forced everybody to clean up their data. And we see a lot of our customers saying, even though, for example, they might be sending fewer e-newsletters out or mail shots out, they're getting much better responses from them from the commercial aspect. So I think there's actually, there's some interesting developments there. One professional body we work with had to cut in half the number of recipients who receive their commercial Solus emails, but they're getting really good cut through and actually better response than they were getting before. So, I think it's not all bad news. I guess, if you're going to use your data well, I think there's just some simple steps that can be taken sometimes, and just doing some test and learn stuff and segmenting your email lists, around the areas of special interest are real opportunities to do that. And certainly I think we could certainly be encouraging our clients to do that more and pushing them down that route more.
So you think for companies which are just drowning in data, are those the kind of things they should start small and build?
I think obviously it does depend on the organisation and how kind of mature in terms of the data they have, how they're managing that and using it. But I think some of the organisations we work with are not that big themselves. So for me, I would just be saying, keep it simple and go for a few simple wins rather than getting yourself too bogged down in complexity, really. But I think for some, it just feels very, very daunting.
That sounds good advice. So looking to the future, where do you see the main opportunities for customer media businesses like yours?
I guess, I think this is one of the things that I said earlier. We're going to spend the next few months kind of reassessing what our, having hit our sort of 4-year plan on our management buyout, reassessing what our next priorities are. We've got a document called Our Story, which kind of sets out what we stand for, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. And we're going to start again with that, really, and really try and go back to first principles and ask ourselves some basic questions about what we want to be, because there's a lot of opportunities, I believe, for organisations. We want to make sure we go for the right ones. It's really important for CPL specifically. We don't lose sight of our USPs, and I think that's the kind of the journalistic skills. The word storytelling gets overused in this sort of context, but the storytelling skills is really, really important. I don't want to lose the spirit of this agency, but we are, what we're doing now is across a much broader spectrum now, the type of content we're creating. And also we're doing the fact that we really refer to ourselves as a content marketing agency. We're doing, in some cases, we're absolutely doing kind of almost traditional above the line advertising stuff in some situations. So I think there's a real opportunity to grow our business, but we need to make sure we're very clear about what our offer is. We're very, our customers work across a lot of different sectors, have a lot of different specialisms, but the great thing for us is that the one thing they definitely have in common is they need to communicate effectively, and we've got the skills and disciplines to help them do that. So I think as long as we make sure that we value those skills and we make sure our current and potential clients value those skills, I think we've got a real opportunity.
And are you excited about the future?
Yeah, I really am. I think we've been very focused on hitting some numbers to complete this management buyout, and I think now there's some more opportunities opening up for us. I think we have a really talented team here. We've had some great people who've worked with CPL over the last 25 years, and some of them are still here and have been with us through all that time. And then we've had others who've come in more recently who are bringing fresh disciplines, fresh perspectives, and I think that's really, really exciting. And offers a real opportunity for us that we can build on. I feel like we're going from a position of strength, which is really, really good. But we can't take anything for granted. A lot of our work is with retained clients, and we have kind of long-term contracts, but they come rolling around, and you need to make sure you're retaining those and you're winning new business all the time, and that's got to be a big focus for us as well. But I actually feel very positive about where we stand at the moment when I see the quality of work we're doing and the different types of work we're doing and the people who are delivering it on behalf of our clients.
And Mike, finally, a question we ask all our guests on the podcast. Outside of work, how do you relax?
Well,
do you relax?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I do, I play. Well, summer's here, and I'm playing cricket again for a club in Cambridge. But I don't know if it's actually. I think if you saw me on the field, I don't know if any of my fellow players would say I'm actually relaxed. But when I'm on the field, but it is definitely something different. So that's something I do. I also do quite a lot of running. I've done 2 marathons in the last 5 or 6 years, and I'm taking part in the Cambridge Half Marathon in October, which I'm mainly looking forward to. I don't particularly enjoy the training, but I enjoy it when it's over.
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
And tell me, with cricket, not that I'm a cricket player, but for those who are, what positions do you play, or do you bowl, bat, or?
For those who know about cricket, I'm employing the Mike Brearley role, which is not necessarily doing much, but captaining people and telling people where to stand, which I quite enjoy. It's easier to do on a cricket field than it is at work sometimes. So yeah, no, I bat a bit and I bowl a bit, and there's some lovely places to play cricket in Cambridge. We're very lucky to play on some college grounds, which is great. So it's good fun.
Sounds a beautiful part of the world. Mike Sewell, thank you very much for being our guest on the In Publishing podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Really enjoyed it.
We would like to thank Advantage CS again for sponsoring this podcast. Advantage CS has been developing subscription management solutions for the information industry since 1979. The comprehensive functionality, adaptability, and scalability of its software helps leading publishers around the world manage their businesses more effectively. Find out more at advantagecs.com. Many thanks to Mike for giving us an insight into his plans for CPL. I liked his emphasis on clear objective setting and great storytelling. The Content Connection report, which Mike referred to, can be downloaded from their website. Go to www.cpl.co.uk/The Content Connection. You can also find out more about CPL and what they do from their website. You can check out previous editions of the In Publishing podcast at inpublishing.co.uk/podcasts. And we can be contacted by email at editorial@inpublishing.co.uk. Thank you for listening, and do join me in 2 weeks' time for another In Publishing podcast, when my guest will be Ed Walker, Audience and Content Director at Reach. Bye for now.